Nick Chubb becomes a free agent. This from Jack Duffin, who is a salary cap guy. Expect Nick Chubb to receive a 4-year qualifying contract to return to Cleveland for 2025. Roughly gets $3 million. Only $1.5 million ever lands on the salary cap. Used it for Taki. H.J. Dillon got it for the Jets in the past. Again, I would expect if they can find a way to bring Nick Chubb back and it's not crazy relative to the salary cap, they do. I would also think they probably draft a running back somewhere in the top 4 rounds.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think you take a running back crazy high, and 2 probably takes it out of the equation. But even at the top 10, I think that's too high personally, and I think the Browns decision makers would agree with that. I don't think Andrew Berry ever envisions himself drafting a guy in the top 10. But do you need to add to Jerome Ford? And even if Nick Chubb comes back, certainly. And I would think you would do that with a draft pick. And you can find that's the thing. You can find running backs that are successful in the mid to late rounds. So if that guy's in the 4th round or the 5th round, he can still come in and have an impact. We've seen that time and again in this league. When it comes to Chubb, I would still think that they get a deal done. I mean, every time Nick Chubb has talked, he talks about finishing his career here. I think it makes sense to think he'll be better in year 2 coming off the knee, the major knee reconstruction. But the way Andrew Berry talked about it today made me pause. They were so adamant and confident last year that something would get worked out. And yes, Chubb was under contract, but they were going to restructure. He was not coming back for that contract. And now he's a free agent. Maybe he's gotten a sense from Chubb that Chubb wants to test the market, or that Chubb, whatever, isn't happy with how things are going here, whatever it is. So I would lean heavily toward Chubb comes back. But I would have leaned much more heavily that direction before listening to Andrew talk today.
All right. Well, along those lines, 2nd year in a row, his season has ended with an injury, being Nick Chubb. This one, a broken foot. Andrew Berry was asked about Nick Chubb's future with the Browns.
I think everybody in this room knows how much respect that we have for Nick and how much appreciation we have for, not just like his exploits on the field, but who he is in the locker room and who he is as a person. It's always a challenging situation when one of your cornerstone players their contract is up. That's probably maybe a little bit the different situation this year relative to last, where there is maybe perhaps a little bit less control on the club side with it. Those are all decisions that we do have to work through in the next several weeks. We love Nick. He's going to be a Ring of Honor player for us, and we know that. In terms of the short term, that's something that, quite honestly, we just have to work through over the next several weeks.
And again, that's much less certain than it sounds the similar way, with Deshaun Watson. They were saying last year, Deshaun Watson's our guy, Deshaun Watson. Now it's, we have to wait and see.
Yeah, and maybe that's as simple as they don't think his knee's going to be good enough, and they watched him for however many 8 games that played this year, I think, and thought, okay, that explosion's not there. Maybe they want to go super cheap at running back. Again, maybe they talk to Nick and they get a sense of that from Nick. I don't know. But if they, in fact, go back to a more, not run first, but run heavy scheme, you would think that fits Nick Chubb. So that's why I was kind of taken aback by those comments. I thought Andrew would be stronger on a Nick Chubb return.